Update 2. Then my mom called again. She told me Jake had stopped responding to her texts. He wasn't talking to her, my dad, or anyone else who had backed out. She sounded worried. Later, one of my uncles, one of the few people who had actually RSVP'd yes, called me. He said I did the right thing. That this whole thing was a mess, and that Jake was probably too deep into it to see how bad it was. Jake still hadn't replied to my last message. I didn't know if this was going to blow over or if I had just lost my brother over a wedding. But one thing was clear. This was far from over. A few days after things went from bad to worse, more people started dropping out of Jake and Emily's wedding. At first, it was just a few cousins and distant relatives, then one of Emily's bridesmaids backed out. She had originally agreed to be part of the bridal party, but couldn't justify the cost anymore. That seemed to open the floodgates. By the end of the week, the guest list had shrunk dramatically. The family group chat was practically dead, except for the occasional message from my mom, asking people to just do what's best for Jake. A few people still planned to go, but it was clear that the wedding wasn't going to be the grand, over-the-top event Emily had envisioned. Then my mom called again. Jake wasn't doing well. He had stopped talking to a lot of people, including some of our relatives who had always been supportive of him. My mom was worried. She said he seemed stressed and had even mentioned canceling the wedding. I asked if he was serious or if it was just something he said in frustration, but she wasn't sure. Then later that night, I got a message from a cousin. It was a screenshot of a conversation in a private wedding group chat. Emily was losing it in the messages. She was going off about how certain people I had ruined everything. She was furious that so many guests were dropping out and even angrier that people weren't taking her wedding seriously. Then she said something that made my stomach drop. If people aren't going to support us, then maybe there's no point in having this wedding at all. I didn't even have time to process that before I got a message from Jake. It was long. He was desperate. He said Emily was rethinking the entire wedding because of how many people were backing out. He begged me to reconsider, saying that if I showed up, it might make other people change their minds too. He said he didn't want to lose more people, that it was tearing Emily apart, and that she was devastated. I asked if she would drop the NDA. If that was the issue, I'd come. Silence. A few minutes later, he replied. Emily refused to drop the NDA. That was it for me. I told him my stance hadn't changed. If she wasn't willing to compromise, then neither was I. A few hours later, another cousin sent me more screenshots from the wedding chat. Emily had trashed me again, saying I had always hated her and had never supported Jake's happiness. She even hinted that I was jealous of their relationship. At that point, I couldn't stay silent. I called Jake. I asked if he had seen what Emily was saying about me. He had, and he still defended her. He said she was just venting and that she was under a lot of stress. I told him it wasn't just about me anymore. She was bad-mouthing half the family at this point. He had no response. Then my dad pulled me aside later that night. He told me he thought the whole thing was ridiculous too, but he didn't want to take sides. He just wanted Jake to be happy, even if it meant going along with Emily's insane demands. Meanwhile, Emily was unraveling. At first, she kept up the act, playing it cool, pretending it didn't bother her. But as more guests backed out, the cracks started to show. A cousin who was originally supposed to be one of her bridesmaids told me that Emily had snapped when another guest backed out. At first, she was just venting, but then she got frustrated, accusing people of sabotaging her wedding. What started as a few harsh words turned into a full-on breakdown, crying, pacing, and blaming everyone but herself. She even accused Jake's family of trying to sabotage the wedding. It wasn't just the guests backing out, either. The vendors started dropping like flies. A florist backed out, claiming there were payment issues. Then a caterer allegedly canceled because Emily's family was late on payments. At this point, even the guests who were still planning to go started questioning if this wedding was even happening. Then, in a last-ditch effort, Jake messaged me again. He offered to pay for everything: my flights, my hotel, my entire wedding experience package. He just wanted me there. But the NDA still stood. I refused. He told me I was going to regret this, that this was a once-in-a-lifetime event, and that I'd be missing out on one of the most important days of his life. Then Emily blocked me. I checked Instagram later that night, and I was completely blocked from her account. No mutual friends, no wedding updates, nothing. I wasn't even surprised at that point. The family was still divided. Some people thought I should just suck it up and go for Jake's sake. Others told me I was absolutely doing the right thing. The group chat was dead. My parents were stressed, and Jake was barely talking to anyone.